lot of this film I shot in close-ups with Ben because I wanted the world to feel really small. Hi, I'm Tommy Dorfman. I'm the writer and director of I Wish You All the Best, and we are going behind the scenes with Collider. First and foremost, maintaining the intimacy that the book had that I adapted it from. It's an incredibly diaristic approach to storytelling, and I wanted to find a way to achieve that visually and through performance, and also through like the structure of the film, and really keeping everything through Ben's point of view as much as possible. And I felt I needed to have integrity with Mason's words. So the writing process was years of dissecting the book and then letting my imagination go wild and then coming back to it and really contain and corset an expansive book of like internal feelings, especially into, a 90-minute film that would be just as impactful, but also really clear and concise in the ways that I wanted it to be. Dramatizing something for screen is quite different than you can do with 300 pages of a novel. To me, I want each character to serve their own purpose in a film, unless there's some reason in the story that you need different characters serving the same purpose, but at least in this movie. So I found that there were a lot of characters in the book who were doing the same thing for Ben. And so one of the more challenging but like fun, creative puzzles to solve was like, okay, each character has to serve a purpose for the story and the scene and what they're doing and why we're here. So maybe we don't need a therapist and like a virtual best friend who you met on the internet and an art teacher who are all saying a version of the same thing. Maybe that can all be one art teacher because that's what's available to you. So that was a change that was made. Having Hannah, the character that Alex plays, have a newborn child was an addition I made because there's talk of wanting to have kids in the book, if I recall, but it wasn't something that happened. And Julia Fox did the table read and she had just had a kid and brought her kid with her. And I was like, early days when I was developing it, I had all these like actor friends of mine who I was like, oh, it would be so cool. And we're friends. And we all got into an office and read the script together. And she had her baby with her. And she was reading Hannah. And I was like, oh, wow, that without saying anything changes the stakes of this dynamic tremendously. And it puts Hannah and Thomas in a much more complicated position in taking in their sibling than wanting to be parents, but actually having that responsibility. And it's not something that ever needs to be totally dramatized externally or spoken about, but it just sort of exists as a simmer throughout the film, I think, in a way that's really nice. I think about filmmaking as like, I'm trying to add as many layers as I can while keeping the story clear. One of the other things I changed is the book has a lot of dramatization around Ben's identity. And by that, I mean, it is a secret that is kept from the other characters in the film up until the very end. And it results in a kind of like melodrama that I think is real in the book, but wasn't the version of the story I was interested in telling. I was interested in telling the version of the story where someone learns to open themselves up more as time goes on because of the people in their lives that have shown up to support them, not someone who becomes more and more afraid and then gets in trouble again because they didn't tell somebody about themselves. And I'm of the mind that we don't owe anyone anything. Like, we don't really owe people coming out. We don't owe people. When I've come out, I've been every letter of the alphabet, and it's like, I think each stop of the way, I really resisted coming out for a long time because I just wanted to have my time with myself around it. And I think there was a version of that story that was possible for Ben, but it was just the version that I was interested in. Was like, well, what if Ben and Nathan, their love interest, didn't have conflict about Ben being non-binary, and that didn't become like a point of potential breakup because it was like a secret that was kept. That feels like a trope that we fall into, the sort of like Love, Simon, we're blackmailing somebody into coming out over some like weird email server. And I'm like, well, that's a story that's already been told, which is very real and valid and valuable, but it wasn't the story that we needed to be told today. And then I was like, well, now what do I do? Because that was like the drama of the book. But I realized that, not all movies need to be dramatized by plot. Some of those things are really, you're getting to watch a character expand slowly over time and then maybe regress, retreat and expand and retreat. But I think the thing that I feel most proud of is like that there's nuance within Ben in this film in a way that maybe in the book is more dramatized. That's a line from the film, and I think it starts like before it's even on the page for me with this movie in particular. And anything I'm writing, I do a lot of walking around in my wherever I'm writing, it can be anywhere, talking to myself. When it comes to dialogue, like once I have the structure worked out, again, it's about layering, but it was like, okay, I was trying to put myself in Ben's shoes and what is it like to come out to your art teacher, like that strange relationship with somebody where you're like, we don't know each other and it actually feels safer to tell you this thing than it would feel to tell somebody I've known my whole life. And putting myself back into the place of, when I was writing this film, I was starting my own transition. And so I think wrote a lot from that space of I was feeling everything and nothing all at once. And I was feeling like I didn't know, I was in a kind of gender identity purgatory of sorts because like I knew I was embarking on a really long journey to self-fulfillment and self-alignment, but I didn't know how long that journey was going to be. And the interim felt really untethered. And this is a story about Ben retethering, and I think the inciting incident is getting kicked out of your home, and then it's where do you go from there? And it's a process of rebuilding trust in yourself and in other people, and in order to become the kid you're supposed to be at 17, and who knows what you'll be at 25 or 30 or 40, but for this moment, this extraordinary 6-month period in Ben's life that we make a movie about, it really is about orientation and not sexual orientation or gender orientation, but like literal physical body and spirit orientation, and like how do I get to a place where like I'm not itchy scratchy all the time. So I think then as a director, once I've put that on the page, it's a matter of casting. Corey in the audition, the first tape that I saw had the most like organic, deep understanding of these words that were just words on a page to him. And it was so clear that maybe I had found an actor because of, I don't know what was going on in Corey's life and very different from Ben, but maybe I found an actor at the same time emotionally that Ben was at of like feeling all of those feelings. And I think that synergy is what allows it to translate on screen. And then in the design, I spent a lot of time thinking about clothing and aesthetic and how somebody who hasn't ever had access to clothes that their mom didn't pick out would try to find themselves. Because I was a kid who found myself through sartorial expression and still do. And so it's like you wear a lot of different hats, and costume is to me like top tier, most important department in film because it can set such a precedent and such a specificity. Like I always think of Blue Jasmine and the Birkin, and it's like that was a character in that movie. And if you costume up, you your movie up, and it helps actors tap into something. And so I did a lot of tracking in the design of like where Ben was on their journey into that, and then how the other characters related to it, conflicted with it, supported it. And I also think something happens when one person in a chosen family or biological family is going through a huge transition within themselves or coming out. Everyone else kind of has to come out with you or not. So that reverberates in all the other actors and the other characters and their freedom of expression and maybe their ability to like open up in the way that like the more Ben opens up, then Hannah can open up. And then the more Hannah opens up, the more Ben's able to open up. And then also just from like a shot design sensibility on a technical note, a lot of this film I shot in close-ups with Ben because I wanted the world to feel really small in those moments of feeling confused and feeling in conflict with where you are and what you're doing here and how to be in the world and how to become whatever becoming is. It's just a lifelong process of, I think we're all becoming. Some more universal themes, I think, in the film. But in moments of liberation for Ben as a character, I let the world get bigger. We had drone shots and we had environment and we had more breathing room because we're in Ben's world and they're seeing the world in that way. And then in moments of intimacy or moments of fear or anxiety or tension or not feeling like you can share yourself, I lived really tight with Ben and the other characters because I felt that that was their perspective. And same with sound design even. It's like there's a scene where the parents and Ben have dinner and the parents are trying to convince their kid to come back home and they could fix this problem that's going on and it's this big issue. And we shot this like whole 7-minute scene between these actors and it's so beautiful and it got really dramatic and everyone's saying exactly what they're thinking. And I think all of that's really useful, by the way. I like to overshoot and I like to overwrite because you can remake the film in the edit in the way that you want it to be and you can tighten it. My first cut of this film was 3.5 hours long. Just keep that in mind. But it's because I wanted, it's helpful, I think, for the actors to have the space to go from A to Z, and then I can find, we need to live in like D, E, and F for this scene, but I'm glad that we got to see the whole thing play out. But yeah, in that moment, once the parents start talking about conversion therapy, the scene actually continued for a few more pages, but when I was editing it, I was like, oh, I think Ben stopped listening. Like, let's cut the parents' dialogue, let's bring the score up. and like design the sound in a more uncomfortable way. I was like, at this point, I think Ben has stopped listening because they have more confidence in themselves and they're happier in the life they're living. They're not happy, but they feel more comfortable. And I think they're gonna go now. And so it's just a matter of like finding those moments. But yeah, I think it's getting all departments on the same page as well about like where you are in the story, especially when you're shooting out of order. Well, first and foremost, you would see a lot of my clothes in this movie. Quite literally, like things from my closet, because we had a very short prep time. I have a shopping addiction. So it was easy enough to be like, I actually have a skirt for that. So there's a lot of me there, pieces of furniture from my house. There's a lot of things hiding there. You know, it's one of the stills we use a lot. We shot Ben laying down on an art table with sort of like a painted can. You know what I'm talking about, that still? When I started scene designing and shot listing, I don't always do it in order of the film, and then I'll go back and I'll reorient, but it's like I had a vision for that scene that was so clear to me. We would start in a medium wide, and then as Ben was like going deeper into like memory, we would come closer and closer and closer, and we would like ride that almost like that kind of uncomfortable edge of direct address. Like I think that's like one thing that felt very like me in the movie, if that makes sense, where I was like, oh, I knew exactly what I wanted in this moment. I feel like I knew kind of what I wanted for most things. And then also the roller skating sequence, you could pause kind of like anywhere once Nathan shows up, and I'd be like, yes, that's indicative of like my vision for what this film was gonna be. There's a moment in which Ben is like wearing a more feminine, silky, like nightgown blouse that you hopefully just understand they got with Hannah at the store at some point. And it's kind of just like a quiet moment of like touching the clothes on the body and like feeling that feeling of like something is unlocking without being talked about and without even like, I don't even think Ben would have the language for it. But I feel like that sequence in particular, the intimacy in which we were shooting all of the things with Ben in their bedroom, but especially that moment, I remember being like, oh yeah, that's the filmmaker that I am, because I don't have a lot of examples of, this is my first film. And I didn't make a short before this, but made nothing before this. So I was learning a lot as I was making it about what kind of filmmaker I was, because I had a sense of what kind of filmmaker I would be, but I didn't know until I knew. And I also believe in growth, and like I'm making a second film right now. It's in a similar genre, but it's so visually, technically different than this one and tonally different. I think that goes back to what we were talking about of like, I'm interested in seeing how far I can stretch myself, even if it means failing. So much, so much. There was a period when I was transitioning and I was writing this movie, and I had been shadowing Lena a little bit off and on, and she was mentoring me. I was like, I'm actually gonna go to film school, and I'm gonna like pause career and do my transition and be in film school, because there was so much I didn't know. And then I also had to like make money and figure everything. That's just not how it happened. So then by the time I got here to making this movie, one of the biggest things I did and continue to do, and I think I will do until I have more movies under my belt, is work with people who are significantly more experienced than I am, that I can trust and believe in and collaborate with, who also believe in me and can communicate well together. But I'm in a process of learning still. I think all of us should approach work that way. I don't imagine anyone can go to any set, even if they've been doing this for 20 years, and not want to learn something. So my prerequisite with like department heads is, I don't feel this way about actors as much. I can work with a green actor. I'm about to work with a kid who's still in college. He was his first audition, and he's doing my movie next. I feel very, very comfortable with actors. I feel very comfortable with working with 100 people at the same time, but I'm still learning technical things about directing. And there are directors who are never going to be technical, and there are directors who are exclusively technical. And I want to ride that line in between. Like there's certain things that I don't ever want to do, and I know that on a technical side, but I want to know as much about as possible. And I don't feel the need to do, because the thing about directing that I love is getting to work with people who are really good at their thing, and then getting to support that thing and be like, you are the best gaffer, and like you love gaffing, and like let's gaff. You know what I mean? Like let me let you gaff. Like, or the same is true. I mean, for any part of the department. I don't want to camera operate. I want to like work with people who then show me their perspective of something, because it's like what they see through the lens offers the audience too. And it's like I can tell them what I think we should see, but I love working with like DPs who have like an insatiable need to understand something or a curiosity, because then that comes through the lens. But yeah, I think for me, it's like continuing to work to hire above my expertise level. And then I get to learn from people and I get to grow with them. And I think there's something quite nice about that contrast in work. And then the biggest learning curve for me was in editing this film. Just across the board was the thing. Like, I'd been on a lot of sets, I'd shadowed people in prep and in production, but not through editing. And I remember when I was about to start editing, Lena was like, just so you know, don't be afraid to like remake the movie. Because I think there's some people who know exactly how they're gonna edit the movie right before they shoot it. And there's some people who don't. And I didn't know in this first film. And actually my second film, I now do know. Like, I've created all of my transitions really specifically from scene to scene because it was something I wished I had done. It was fun to find my way through it in post, but it's just a different challenge. So just maintaining like as specific of a perspective as possible is something I want to keep learning how to do and not get overwhelmed in the edit as much. Hi, I'm Tommy Dorfman. I'm the writer, director, producer of I Wish You All the Best, which comes out in theaters on November 7th, so you should see it.